Joe Sakic has a unique perspective because he can speak from the authority of management and as a former player who has been there and done that.
Mm-hmm.
You can fire your power play coach. You can fire him. But you know what Joe did? He said, you know what? It's also on these players for not executing. Because the execution of that power play was great during the regular season. They were number 8 in the NHL. So if they were great during the regular season, why couldn't it be so in the postseason? It's not just the coach.
Right.
At some point, the players have to take ownership. These are the best players on the planet.
There is no doubt about it.
There's one quote that I really liked from him that I think gives him a unique perspective as opposed to a lot of GMs. Yeah, let's go ahead and hear it. Go ahead, Nelly.
Well, I just think, I'll say I went through as a player as well. I mean, you're sometimes things just aren't going to go your way. Like I look at Kale. Like Kale played so well. He had as many chances in the playoffs as he did in the regular season on a per game thing. He might have got blocked, great saves, just missed the net sometimes, and those things happen. But it doesn't mean you don't play well. It's sometimes it's just not going your way, and it was.
So pause right there. This is what I'm talking about.
But when you say that, even though it's the truth, and it's hard to quantify, right, Brett? You can't just put your finger on, well, it didn't go your way.
Mm-hmm.
Fans hate that because they want blood, they want answers,
blood.
they want specifics, they want this.
I mean, look at us. I mean, when reaction to Nick Wright, we want blood.
Here's the thing, though.
We have bloody hands. No, I'm serious. As a society, I mean, blood is to be had.
When you're a player, you've said it over and over, Moj. Those Sakic teams filled with Hall of Famers on it didn't win 3 years in a row. They won, and then they waited a long time, and then they won another one.
5 years.
But when he said, I went through it as a player, sometimes things aren't just aren't going to go your way. That is only, I think, can be seen through the perspective of a player.
Well,
I did what I felt like was right in all these different situations. It just didn't work out.
Moj, take yourself back to young Joe Sakic. You weren't here. Young Joe Sakic, after winning the first cup and falling short to that same Dallas franchise.
Well, here's what happened. They win in 95-96. It's awesome. They win the division the next year. They go all the way to the conference finals, then they lose to the Red Wings. Here for all this.
But at that point, you're like, okay, you beat them last time. They beat you. It's a rivalry. Great.
And they're really good.
Yeah.
The next year, you lose in round 1 to the Edmonton Oilers and Tommy Salo. You're like, what in the what? Okay, that's 2 years in a row now. We're 2 years removed from the Stanley Cup. Let's get our act together.
Let's go.
You take care of the Northwest again at the time. And you beat the Red Wings in the second round, man. You're like, we're going. And you lose to Dallas in 7. That's 3 years removed.
Was 7th game at their place?
Yes.
Yeah. And that was the Dallas team that had Hull.
It had Madonna. Yeah, Hull. It had New and it had everybody on that friggin' team.
Then they end up losing to Jersey. Who'd they lose to? Dallas.
You might have been Jersey that year.
Okay, go on.
Well, no, they lost to Jersey the next year because Jersey won it 99-00.
Right.
So then, Brett, okay, we're 3 years removed now. Next season, Northwest, okay, sounds good. Beat Arizona. You beat the Red Wings again in the conference semis.
Oh, yeah, it's heating up, baby.
And you lose to Dallas again in Game 7. You're like, what in the holy... Right? And so Joe Sakic experienced all of this.
Yeah, he felt it.
As a player. So did Peter Forsberg. So did Patrick Waugh. So did Adam Foote. So did every other stud, Milan Hajduk. Every other stud on those teams, you're going, man, this team's low-dead. And I know if I say, sometimes things just don't go your way. That's not good enough.
But
I need answers.
This is what I wanted to get to, though, is that because he's gone through that before in a big way, he knows what that feeling's like. He knows what it is to think our team was good enough and we didn't get there, and sometimes that's the way that things kind of fall. I think the perspective he can have, especially when it comes to somebody like...
By the way, that last one, sorry. Raymond had made the trade for Ray Bourque that year at the deadline from Boston. And you lose to Dallas again.
Yeah.
But in all of this, I think it gives him a much different perspective than most, because there's some people, there's some teams, there's some dudes in
they
charge
would blow it up.
that because it's easy.
Yeah.
It's easy. You know what's really easy to do yesterday? Fire McFarland and fire Bednar and then start over and say this isn't acceptable. Everybody will give you applause for not sitting on your heels and waiting for something to happen. You'll get praise. But let me tell you something. Milwaukee Bucks did that in trading for Damian Lillard, and they got worse. And the Lakers did that to get Luka on their team this year, and they lost in 5 games in the first round. Just because you're making moves doesn't mean it's the right thing. In fact, said this in the appetizer, the hardest thing to do sometimes is nothing, at least nothing major. And I'll explain. The year before the Avs won the Cup, they lost again in the second round of Vegas in a year that we all felt, hey, no excuses that year. You had a healthy team. That team was primed and ready for a championship, and they lost, was it 3 in a row?
4.
4 in a row.
They won the first 2 games of the series.
4 in a row. That felt like a prime opportunity for a lot of teams to make some major changes. They didn't. And then what happened?
They won.
The Nuggets, for 2 straight years, lost in 5 games in the first round. They got swept in the second round. Very easily could have said, you know what? I guess Malone's just not the guy. We got to get somebody else in here. They didn't. Stuck with it. In the year afterwards, what happened? They won. Like, the patience part is sometimes the hardest thing that you can do, but it doesn't mean it's incorrect.
It's an excellent point, Vic. One of the hardest things you can do if you're Chris McFarland and Joe Sakic is look in the eyes of the fans and say,
I still believe in this.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Only because people, again, they demand this, they demand that, they want this, they expect that. It's just a really good team. Do you need probably a couple of more tweaks? Sure you do. I'm very interested to see who they're going to hire, who Jared Bednar is going to hire to take over the Ray Bennett role, and what the new ideas might be on the offensive side of things, especially on that power play, because you've got terrific players. Saw the power play start to work better as that Game 7 went on when somebody inadvertently got parked behind the net and forced Dallas to chase like crazy. And they got some good looks at the can. They just couldn't get it home. And so, yeah, it's I don't know that fans want to hear, yeah, you know, we're going to run this back with these guys. You know, this is a good club and we've got our guys and so on. But sometimes it's the right thing to do. And I just know this is a really good hockey club. Doesn't mean you're going to win next year. Who knows, man? It's hard to win.
Let me read something on the text line. I'm sorry,
Please.
on the Twitch feed.
Please.
I can't pronounce your name because these Twitch names are all jacked up. I don't understand why they come in codes, but whatever. Bednar just doesn't have a good track record, all the talent in the world, and he can't get past one team. Let's just take that argument for its own, all right? Doesn't have a good track record. Well, what's your definition of a track record? Is winning a Stanley Cup pretty good track record? Is that pretty good? So the one team you couldn't get past, the one coach you couldn't get past. Totally admit that. Couldn't get past Peter DeBoer. Has Peter DeBoer ever won a Stanley Cup?
No.
So let me ask the Twitcher, which track record would you rather have? One of winning a Stanley Cup or one of not getting by a certain coach? Which one would you rather possess?
I'd rather win the Stanley Cup.
It's also short-sighted in just saying, like, even if their argument, and I'm assuming this is what it is the Stanley Cup was the outlier. That's what they're saying about Bednar. I don't know how you can look at what happened early this season for the first half of the year where they had, 43 different guys, Moj, that were playing at some point on the Avs roster?
Well, no, the Avalanche this year used 49 different players.
49 different players and a goalie that was giving up 4 goals a game at least.
It comes down to the definition of a track record.
And keeping them
What
afloat.
is it? What's your track record? I mean, is the Stanley Cup championship, is the winning a championship the greatest thing you can have on a track record?
Yeah.
Or is it just getting there? What is it? How do you define it? And I'm sorry, I can't. Again, props to capital NB small UI 04 on Twitch. My bad. I'm not trying to make an argument. I'm just asking. What is a track record?